I didn't notice he was standing there. Not until it was already too late. Not until the sentence had already left my lips. Not until I heard the soft click of the door and watched him walk away from me. Without saying a single thing. My name's Natalie, and I'm here to tell you how I ruined the best relationship of my life. All because I couldn't stop holding on to someone who let me go. It began like any other quiet Saturday. My closest friend, Claire, had come over for coffee and some light-hearted conversation. We were sitting in the kitchen, chatting about work, her new relationship, and eventually, my boyfriend of 2 years. Jake is, or was, the kind of man who makes you believe that maybe the world isn't such a terrible place. He was steady, gentle, genuinely thoughtful. The kind of man who never forgets how you take your coffee, rubs your shoulders without being asked, and folds your clothes because he was folding his anyway. He was everything I should have cherished. But here's the hard truth. I was still in love with someone else. His name was Adam. My ex. The one who shattered my heart 3 years ago. He cheated. Disappeared. Returned. Then left all over again. It was a disaster. But for reasons I couldn't explain, I never completely let him go. Jake didn't know that. He knew of Adam, of course. I never hid that he existed, but he didn't know how much space he still took up in my thoughts. He didn't know I sometimes scrolled through Adam's Instagram at midnight, or that I still listened to songs that reminded me of him, or that I occasionally wondered how life would have turned out if Adam had stayed. So that day, when Claire asked casually over coffee, "Do you see yourself marrying Jake?" I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it hit too close to something I didn't want to admit. I took a slow sip of my drink and said, recklessly, foolishly, "I don't think I'll ever love him like I loved Adam." Claire blinked at me. "Wait, what?" Shrugged. "Jake's wonderful." "Really? But that fire Adam and I had. That kind of passion can't be faked." It was a mess, but it felt real. "I don't feel that with Jake." What I didn't know was that Jake had come home early. He parked quietly, came in without a sound, and apparently stood in the hallway, just out of view, long enough to hear every word. He didn't interrupt. He didn't shout. Didn't demand an explanation. He just walked out. Silently. Completely. I had no idea he'd even been there. Not until I noticed his keys were gone, the shoes by the door missing, and the croissants from our favorite bakery still sitting untouched on the passenger seat of his car. That's when I understood. He had heard everything. Called immediately. Straight to voicemail. I texted him. First casually, then in full panic. "Hey, where are you? Can we talk? Please come back." Nothing. Claire stayed over that night. She felt horrible, even though it wasn't her fault. She kept trying to convince me maybe he didn't hear the full thing. Maybe he just went for a walk. But I knew. Because the next morning, I woke up to one text. Just 5 words. That's all it said. "I heard you. I'm done." No explanation. No frustration. No demand for clarity. Just done. Fell apart. I mean, completely unraveled. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I kept reliving that moment in the kitchen again and again, begging for a version where I hadn't said it. But there wasn't one. 'Cause I had said it. And I meant it, at least at the time. The days crawled by. Jake never came back. And I couldn't blame him. But here's the twist. Once he was gone, something inside me shifted. I stopped thinking about Adam. Those memories I used to cling to. The late-night phone calls. The spontaneous trips. The explosive arguments followed by tearful apologies. They suddenly felt distant. Like rewatching a childhood movie and realizing it wasn't as good as you remembered. Adam had been an obsession. But Jake had been my healing. And I let him go. 2 weeks after everything ended, I ran into Jake's sister, Emily, at a bookstore. We hugged awkwardly. She didn't know whether to be angry or compassionate. I told her I was sorry. That I missed him. That I'd made a huge mistake. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "Something I'll never forget." "You know," she said. He didn't need you to love him like you loved Adam. He just needed all of you. That cut deeper than anything else. Because Jake had always offered me his whole heart. And I gave him only the pieces I hadn't buried in the past. So I decided to write him a letter. Not a message. Not an email. A real, handwritten letter. I told him everything. How I used to think love had to be wild and stormy to matter. How I was wrong. How I tried so hard to protect myself that I ended up wounding him. I told him I didn't expect forgiveness. But if he ever wanted to talk, I'd be here. He never responded. But months later, I heard through mutual friends that Jake had moved away. Got a job at a non-profit. Started dating someone else. A woman who, I'm told, makes him smile. Challenges him. Loves him with her entire heart. And me. I'm learning to live with the silence I created. I still go on dates, but I don't